another episode of the Boulevard Podcast. I'm once again joined by the boys. My boy Jose and Big John is with us again this week. Dude, week 11 already in the books for college football. And we kind of talked about it a little bit pre-recording here, pre-show. That sucks. I mean, this stuff it has flown by. We're already going into week 12. Would you say Washington only has like one or two more games left, Jose?
Yeah, two more games. One more game after this week.
Yeah. So I mean, we're coming to an end, and it sucks. I mean, it absolutely has flown by. Um, but college basketball's here, and we're gonna have some college basketball in this show. So at least we're gonna have something to do once that this college football season comes to an end. But we're gonna recap some games from last weekend. And then, of course, we're going to go over some of the big matchups for this weekend, give you some bets, give you a dog parlay, and Big John's going to give you some college basketball bets. And then we'll wrap this thing up. So we had some more upsets this past weekend that really messed up the bracket going into the college football playoff. Georgia Tech pulling the dub out against Miami, 28-23 dub. Now, we kind of figured at some point this would happen. Miami has won way too many close games to be able to continue to do that on a week by week basis and come out unscathed completely. And we'll get into the bracket here in just a minute, so I don't want to speak too far onto that, but they are still alive, obviously, as that's their first loss. Are y'all kind of surprised by this Georgia Tech game or no?
I figured at some point Georgia Tech would get somebody.
Yeah.
Just with the style they play. Now, I was kind of disappointed, like just given the way Haynes King looked. He obviously wasn't 100%, and Jamal Haynes, the running back, went out during this game as well. So for Miami to drop this game was, kind of an eye-opener. I figured they would drop, like there was other games they played that they very well could have lost and other games on their schedule coming up or the rest, or, obviously the ACC championship game where I thought if they lost, it wouldn't have been as bad. I mean, Georgia Tech's not a bad team, but just given the way they were playing that game, I mean, I expected Miami at some point to pull away, and they didn't. So a little concerning there. But overall, Miami's still in a pretty good spot. I guess we'll save that talk for a little while when we get into the bracket. Yeah. But they should still be okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. Ole Miss, big story of the weekend. Ole Miss beating Georgia 28-10. Look, I can't get behind Georgia or Carson Beck anymore. I mean, that boy stinks. Ole Miss getting a big dub, and once again, we'll get into the college football bracket here in a second. But they are now, in the talk in the playoff as of right now, going forward. So, what did y'all take away from this game? Was it more of Ole Miss playing well, or is it more of Georgia just shooting themselves in the foot?
Georgia's offense more than anything.
It's bad.
It's Georgia's offense. He doesn't have anyone. We talked about it when we broke it down last week. He doesn't have anyone to throw to. He sucks as a quarterback. I'd rather see Jaden Rashada at this point. Throw him in or something. I don't really know what to do. I wish Raiola would have stayed, but I don't know, man. It's tough. Tough to watch, and wasn't really even a big story to be honest. Georgia was ranked high, but Ole Miss is a good team, and Georgia's just there. This was bound to happen at some point. The way that Carson Beck's been playing and the way the offense has looked as a whole. Their only exception is that Texas game, and the defense is what kept them in that one. So they can only do so much against these SEC teams, right? The SEC is just so elite, top to bottom, offensively. A lot of the teams offensively and defensively, and I think Georgia just kind of fits right in the middle there. In my opinion, they're just a middle of the pack team. I think there's better teams in the SEC, and it's obviously being shown. The offense is just not what it should be, and it needs we need to revamp it and get some better players in there. I don't really know what to do at this point.
I want to give a quick shout out real quick, an unsung hero to the Ole Miss quarterback, Austin Simmons. The backup QB came in for Jackson Dart. I think it was after the first drive, right? Dart went out with the ankle injury.
Yeah.
And I think Dart threw a pick. It was 3-0 Georgia, or 7-0 Georgia right off the bat. Dart went to the locker room, and I thought to myself, like, oh, here, this is going to get blown out, right? Like, Mississippi's going to get smoked here. Austin Simmons comes in. Lane Kiffin doesn't close up the playbook. I think the very first play of the drive, he throw a pass to the outside. The rest of the drive, he's throwing the ball, throwing it well, and ends up leading them down to a touchdown, which I thought really changed I mean, not only the game, but I guess their season as a whole. Like if they don't score on that drive, or let's just say he throws a pick or something, I mean, Georgia can walk away from that, in that game in a 14-0 lead off the bat, maybe blow them out. So Austin Simmons coming in, settling them down, rallying the troops, leading them down against a really good Georgia defense, and almost like saving the game and really their season. So I want to give a really big shout out to him. I thought he played really, really well. And Jackson obviously comes back later in the game. He plays great. But yeah, I mean, this Ole Miss team, I don't know what I want to say. They were 20-1 to win the national championship a few weeks ago. That was a great bet because they won this game without Trey Harris. If they get healthy, Caden Prieskorn as well. If they get healthy, they get all the guys back. Their defense is legit. Their defensive line is really, really good. They have the pieces and they have the head coach and the personnel and the prowess to make a run. Yeah. If you're one of the teams that is going to get a first round bye and you potentially have to face Ole Miss in the second round, you do not want to face them. There's other teams out there that you'll be more than happy to play against. Ole Miss is not one of those teams. So be on the lookout for them, guys. They have a lot of potential. They have a lot of talent. I'm really, really high on this team going forward.
Yeah,
we talked about it. Sorry, go ahead.
I was high on them at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to be a pretty good squad this year, and I don't really think they play anyone else the rest of the year, if I remember right. I think they should be a shoe-in at this point.
Yeah, they're in.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they were just efficient. They were efficient. The defense played well. I don't. What else more could you ask for? They're a good team. They're going to give people problems.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it, and it seems like every year with Ole Miss, they have a really good team. They beat everybody they're supposed to beat, but for whatever reason, they just can't get over that hump. Well, this year they've gotten over that hump. Going forward, their remaining games on the schedule, they also only have 2 games left, and they have got a bye, and then they play at Florida, and then they play Mississippi State. It's their last 2 games. So, yeah, so they should be in and be in pretty comfortably, really. Next game on the slate, Indiana. They do win, but it was close, 20-15. They do get the dub against Michigan. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't watch a second of this game. Did y'all watch any of this game at all?
In and out, but I wasn't consistently watching it.
Yeah. I say, is there any course did somebody get hurt? Was it or did
I just think they played a good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They played a Michigan defense that's still, regardless of how bad their offense is, the Michigan defense is still one of the best defenses in the country you're going to face. And, Indiana pulls it out, but they only add 246 yards of offense. But they did what they needed to do. So, and that's all that matters. A win's a win. Michigan's got a good defense, and they showed they could play and win against a good defense, put it together. So.
Yeah, in a way, too, I think it's better for Indiana. They have one of these games, right? Like, you want to blow every team out, but eventually you're going to run into some teams, especially now in the latter half of the season, get into the playoff. You're going to face teams that are going to hang with you. So it's good. Get themselves in that scenario, playing a competitive game deep into the fourth quarter. Obviously, they were challenged by Michigan. Maybe opened up some question marks for them, but I'm sure it's something Signetti can handle, him and his staff, get back to the drawing board and clean those mistakes up. So you can't blow out every team, especially not in a power conference. So it was good for Indiana. I think they'll look back on this and be like, you know what? I'm glad they took us to the wire there.
Yeah, because you want to get battle tested going into the playoffs and can see really what your team can do in those moments. So, I mean, you look at what happened to Texas the first time they really played somebody. They really hadn't been battle tested, and Georgia came in there and whooped that ass. So, you want to get to that point and before the playoffs start. To really get tested and to see what your team can do. Colorado's licking their chops right now. Come out with another dub at Texas Tech, 41-27. They are very much in the race to be in the playoff right now. Do what?
Iowa State lost again.
Iowa State lost again. I think Kansas State might be ahead of them in the Big 12 or in the rankings. Kansas State's at 16 and Colorado 17 as of right now.
I think as of right now, it would be Kansas State versus Colorado.
No, it would be BYU.
BYU.
Sorry, I keep forgetting about BYU because they should have lost 4 games.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get to them later.
Yeah. So, but they're very much so in the hunt right now for the Big 12. I bet on LSU this past weekend. They got shit on. Alabama goes to Death Valley at night, get the dub 42-13. I was at a birthday party when this game was on, but we had it on and was playing it. They just ran the ball down their throat, and there just wasn't anything that they could do about it. So Alabama's still hanging on in there in the college football bracket, which we'll get to in just a second. But as of right now, they're looking like a pretty good chance to make it as well.
I didn't watch a whole lot of that game, but looking at the stat sheet here, it looks like Milroe just went crazy and
Yeah.
he actually used his legs again for once.
Yeah, they were running the ball over the place.
I watched this entire game. I was at the Sphere watching this one. And obviously it was a big time game and you can't go wrong, preparing to watch this game. But I mean, as it went on, it was very obvious to me that LSU just can't handle mobile quarterbacks, right? We saw it a few weeks ago against A&M. Here, Milroe just absolutely demolishes them with his legs. So going forward, I guess, whoever LSU plays, whether it's the rest of the season or in the bowl game, if they're playing a mobile quarterback, just fade them.
Yeah, honestly. Going forward, Bama has Mercer. Then they got to go to OU, and then they get Auburn at home. That's their remaining schedule for the rest of the year. So as long as they handle business, which they should be able to, then they look like they will be able to hang on for dear life and get in there to the playoff berth there and make it another year. So, all right, BYU. Jose, I know you've been itching to talk about this. Come out with the dub, Utah, 22-21. They absolutely should have like 4 losses at this point in time. But Jose, I know you've been itching, so I'll let you give your piece. What did you think of this BYU Utah game?
Look, do I think they got robbed? Utah did. I'm gonna say no, I guess. By the letter of the law, sure, that was a foul, right? I don't know if you guys saw the replay. I'm sure you guys did at this point. That hold they called on 4th down when BYU got sacked. Game should have been over. Was it a foul? Yeah, I guess. Does that happen on 90% of pass plays? Yes, that happens all the time. Okay, like the DB is going to make contact with the receiver on any given play. Unless you're playing some sort of zone coverage, if you're playing man, or you're playing press, they will make some sort of contact. So for you to make that call in the 4th quarter of a game, rivalry game, where Utah just won the game, to throw that flag out there, I'm not saying obviously there's no home cooking here, right? It was at Utah, right, Seckles? I'm not saying the Big 12 influences this, but you can make the very strong argument that the Big 12 wants to make sure that they have like some undefeated team make the CFP because it'll be good for ratings. They want to show that they have one of the better teams in the country because there's no way you should be making that call. BYU, I mean, I don't want to reveal too much because we'll talk about them later. But look, it's just not good. It's not a very good team. Now, they keep costing me money because I keep fading them. But last week, I finally got right with them. Utah actually covered the spread there. And I was considering taking money line too, so I kind of lucked out on that one, just taking the +3. I mean, Resclaff can't throw. Utah had him locked up. I mean, 7 of their points came from kick return. Another 3 points at the end came from, the referees bailing them out. Now, I understand, Utah had multiple chances to end that game after that. They didn't. Whatever, I guess I'll give some kudos to BYU. But the team is just not that good. It's not. And the betting market agrees with me. And we'll discuss it later. But people in the know, everyone's starting to realize now that BYU's 9-0 record is a little bit fraudulent. So just buyer beware. If you're going to move forward, want to back BYU, just know the market, the professionals, not very high on this squad. I'm not either. Very, very lucky. You break down their box scores. They're very, very fortunate to be 9-0. So whatever. I mean, yeah, they've costed me money, but I'm finally starting to get right with them.
Yeah.
This BYU team reminds me a lot of the TCU team that made the national championship and played Georgia. I feel like that would happen to this BYU team. And if they somehow go unscathed and make the playoffs, I feel like whenever they play, whoever they play, if they get matched up against even SEC or a Big Ten team, right? I mean, it's going to be like 52-0 or something. Like, I'm fading them hard. I honestly feel like that could happen.
But if you're a team like Ole Miss, right, or a team like Alabama, where you're pretty much guaranteed to be in the playoff at this point, like you want to root for BYU to keep winning.
Yeah,
like that's a potential matchup because BYU's gonna get the first round bye, right? You could be matched up with them in the next round, and that's like an easy win for you. You know what I mean? So if you're in the playoff already, you're rooting for BYU to keep winning. No one is scared to play BYU.
every single one of those teams would rather see BYU than Colorado at that spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait. I honestly hope they make it, just so I can place a very large wager, fading BYU in that first game that they play in the playoff.
Then they'll pull some shit off and win outright.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's get into some games for this weekend. Tennessee go. Oh wait, no, sorry. Let's go over the college football bracket first. Let's go over the playoff rankings first, and then we'll get into some games for this weekend. Oregon's still sitting at number 1. Ohio State at number 2. Texas is at 3. Penn State at 4. Indiana jumps up to 5. So you've got 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5. BYU jumps up to 6. Tennessee's at 7, which I don't understand how, but they are. They're at number 7. Notre Dame at 8. Miami falls to number 9. Alabama moves into 10. Ole Miss makes the jump into number 11, and they are now in the playoff race. And Georgia falls to 12, which a group of 5 team has to make it. So as long as Boise handles their business, they should take that 12th spot, and which would put Georgia out of the college football playoff. And then after that, the first couple teams in. After that, you're looking at SMU sitting at 14, A&M at 15, and then Kansas State and Colorado at 16 and 17 looking to get in after that. So I really need A&M to get in just for my future. I really want that one to cash in a bad way. But anything surprising to y'all in that college football ranking?
John, you want to go first, or?
Nothing really surprising. I think it's still right. For the most part here, I would say just some like quick thoughts about this. The first thing I meant to say this earlier is Georgia's season total over under that was 10.5. So that if you had the under, that cashed this week, by the way. But anyways, looking at this, Notre Dame, they still got to play Army, USC. I think if they lose either one of those games, there's a chance they could get knocked out. We'll have to see. Tennessee, I don't know, Jose. You'll have to give me your thoughts on this after I break it down. But Tennessee, if they lost to Georgia this week, as long as they handle business, I think they still could get in. I'm not sure though. Georgia might flip flop between Tennessee and Georgia. This could be a playing game this week. Boise should be fine, handling business. Ohio State should be fine. Oregon, Miami. I'd rather see. I'm hoping Colorado gets that spot over BYU. Indiana, I think Indiana's in no matter what, even if they lose to Ohio State. Alabama, they got Mercer this week. They're going to lose that game. Texas.
You say they're going to lose to Mercer?
Don't sleep on Mercer, baby. 7-1. Dominating the SoCon, going to get in the FCS playoff. Y'all just wait. Mercer's going to show up this week.
I better see that notification. You bet Mercer plus.
Yeah, if I don't see that on accident.
If I don't see that by this weekend, then I'm going to be very disappointed.
Ole Miss is cruising. Penn State's kind of cruising. They just need to win out. They're fine. I mean, other than the BYU, I'd like to see Colorado there. I don't know. I'm hoping Tennessee gets in because I do have that future on them to make the playoffs. We'll kind of have to see what happens with that. And then the Notre Dame, we'll just kind of have to see what happens with that as well. One quick hitter, Jose, here that I want you to kind of tell me what you think here is the Tennessee-Georgia game this week. Do you think that's a playing game? Or do you think even if Tennessee loses, as long as they keep it close, they could possibly get in still? Number 2, if SMU wins the ACC and Miami would have 2 losses, I guess. Do you think Miami would still have a chance to get in? Those are my 2 questions for you.
Okay, so the easier question is the second one. Is Miami going to get in with 2 losses? The answer is no. If there's going to be one representative from the ACC and the Big 12. That's what these rankings are telling me right now. You win your conference, you're in. If you lose, you're out. The fact that BYU is sitting at 6 behind some of these other teams and the fact they're undefeated just goes to show me the committee doesn't even want them in there. Like, they have to put them that high because they're undefeated and because they're leading their conference right now. But if they drop a game, they're not going to get in. Whoever wins the Big 12 championship is going to get in. That's going to be it. Same with the ACC. Your first question, is Tennessee, Georgia a playing game? That one's tough. Like, obviously, Georgia loses, they're out. Right? They're not going to make it.
Yeah.
If Tennessee loses that game, it's going to just come down to the, what are the results around them look. The SEC as a whole, I mean, like, I want to say there's still like 6 or 7 teams that are still competing to play in the SEC championship game, right? I don't have the teams in front of me right now, but I want to say at least 6 are still alive. Was Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Mississippi, LSU, A&M. Yeah, 7 teams are still within like a legitimate. There's a legitimate possibility these teams can play for the conference title. So common sense would tell me that a 2-loss SEC team will get in no matter what, which would have me inclined to believe that Tennessee is probably safe with the loss, and that win over Alabama is obviously huge. But, come selection, if it's a Sunday or whatever day it is, come selection day, Tennessee would probably be looking at like that 12, 11 seed, like best case scenario if they lose this game. Also just want to point out real quick, guys, and I think we've discussed this before, but it's becoming more and more reality, right? Like if you're like, let's say you're Ole Miss, right? And you finish the season 10-2, you do not want to make the SEC championship game because what's the upside? Like if you finish 10-2, you're in the playoff no matter what, right? But if you have to go play the SEC championship game, yeah, if you win the game, you're in the playoff, but you were already in there if you didn't have to play. But if you lose, you're out. They're not going to put you in at 10-3. So a lot of these teams are really not like, as the season winds down, I mean, how many of these teams actually want to make the SEC championship game? Like unless you're a team like LSU where you have to win the SEC to get in, I can guarantee you none of these teams actually want to play that game. Now, if they're in that game, they have no choice. They have to try and win. You know what I mean? But like if you're Ole Miss or if you're Georgia, or you're Tennessee and you have 2 losses and you're playing against another team that has 2 losses, I mean, if you didn't play that game at all, you would be pretty much guaranteed to be in the playoff. Now you have to win that game or you're out. So it's a really interesting conundrum as the season winds down to see, how these teams react to have to play that extra game, because you can make a very solid argument that these teams should just refuse the SEC championship game and just accept the fact they're going to be like a 10 or 11 seed in the playoff, then try and win that game and maybe get a first round bye, maybe. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you guys kind of agree with that sentiment or you disagree?
I agree. I think that any 10-2 SEC team is hoping they're not in the end here, because if you have two 10-2 SEC teams playing in that SEC title game, one of them's out for sure. Like that third loss knocks you out no matter what, and that could honestly be a Tennessee or an A&M or whoever's path to get into the playoffs here. Is, hey, I'm sitting at 2 losses. I don't want to be in the title game. And then this other team, say Alabama, they drop a third game in the SEC title game and they're out. You know what I mean? Yeah. That opens up a spot for one of the other teams, the other SEC teams.
It's going to be an interesting selection day to see what precedent the committee sends going forward, right? Like unless the committee flat out says, you know what, the conference championship games mean nothing to us because you're already in, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's it's going to be a very interesting precedent what they decide to do going forward, because if they decide to go down that route, then they're pretty much saying the conference championship games are meaningless unless you have to win that game to get in the playoff, a la like a Colorado or like a Kansas State, a team like that, if you get what I'm saying.
And another thing real quick here to and I didn't think I'd be saying this at the beginning of the year, but if you have to look at all these SEC teams in the eye test, I would put Georgia towards the bottom here. And if say you're putting in teams from the eye test, say they struggle with Tennessee this week or something, but they get it done. You do have that big win against Texas. But if they struggle with Tennessee here and they somehow pull it out at home, we'll say they pull it out at home by 3 or 4 points or whatever. Eye test alone. And there's all these 2-loss SEC teams, I would put Georgia towards the bottom. I think that they've looked at one of the worst out of the 2-loss SEC teams. But that's just me personally.
I mean, I could see it now, the writing on the wall, right? Like I can guarantee you BYU drops a game, they finish 11-1, and they're going to be battling to get that last spot with like a 9-3 SEC team. And as the committee has shown us, they value the eye test more than anything. So if it's like a 9-3 Ole Miss team, for example, versus 11-1 BYU, I'm sorry, BYU, you guys are not getting in. The eye test does matter. John's right. Like if you don't look that good, you will not be rewarded by getting into the playoffs. So
another thing too here is that Tennessee plays Vanderbilt at the end of the year, and Vanderbilt is no walk in the park. They've been a very good ball team this year, so that will help Tennessee's case, especially if they can keep it close with Georgia. Now, if they beat Georgia, they're in. Like they'll be in the playoffs. But if they, I know they're 10-point dogs here, but if they keep it close or win that game, keep it close but not win that game, but they handle Vandy, fairly well.
Yeah.
They could definitely get in still.
I think, and just real quick, my biggest takeaway from this ranking is that SMU is too low because they're 8-1,
I agree.
and they've beaten Louisville, they've beaten Pitt. I look at teams like Texas, I look at teams like Penn State, I look at teams like Miami. Like, who have they beat? Like, who do those guys beat? Miami lost to Georgia Tech. Yeah, and there's no shame in losing to Ohio State if you're Penn State. No shame in Texas losing to Georgia. But Miami lost to Georgia Tech. They haven't really beat anybody. SMU's probably beat the same people they played, and they lost to BYU by 3.
Yeah,
like
the 3 seed.
I think if you're SMU, you have a real gripe here. Like I don't really know how they're at 14. I think they should have a legitimate reason to be upset. I just looking at from a resume standpoint, yeah, this team has the resume and the makeup of a team better than 14. So if I'm an SMU fan or one of their $1 million donors, I'm a little upset at these rankings because I feel like their resume is on par with some of these other teams that are already in the playoff.
And the way that SMU is playing ball too, I mean, they're going to get in the Miami a real run for their money in the ACC title game.
Again, that's a game that none of them want to play.
Yeah,
like if it's SMU versus Miami in the ACC title game, like I'm sure they're calling the commissioner's office saying, "Hey, can we just not play this game and accept the fact that we're going to get into the playoff at 11-1 each?"
Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest advocate for 12-team playoffs, but it makes for really good conversation. I'm getting pretty hyped just looking at these potential matchups. So
yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's starting to grow on me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fire for sure. I think the thing with SMU is they're the new kids on the block type situation. I may be wrong, and that doesn't mean it's right because they absolutely, I think, should be higher as well. But if I were to guess why, that's probably what I would say. But they definitely should still be in.
I took a quick look at the odds to make the playoff. Wazoo sitting at 50-1, guys. Is there any value there or no?
I mean, how do they get in though?
That's where the question comes in.
Like, yeah.
Does Boise State has to lose, right? And Army has to lose. Like Army has to lose against Notre Dame.
I guess are they technically in that group of 5 conversation team?
Yeah, they're in the G5.
Yeah.
But they have no way of getting a bye because they wouldn't be a champion.
Yeah.
Like Boise State in theory has a chance of getting a bye because they would be, one of the highest. I believe so, right?
Yeah, Boise's the only group of 5 team ranked ahead of them, so they would need Boise to lose and then win out. Would be their only chance, really. Because Boise's at 13 right now, and Washington and Wazoo's at 18.
I'm not saying I'm just saying you guys think there's value on it.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, I would say that there's somewhat of a chance they could get in, but that would and this isn't out of the question, Boise being a higher seed than what they are. I'd still think that is a possibility. But I don't, you know what I mean? It would be when they go to make the bracket here and they're looking at that 12 seed, let's just say Boise does go a little bit higher, right? And they're making the bracket here and they're looking at that 12 seed, are they going to pick a 1-loss Wazoo or a 2-loss Tennessee or a 2-loss Georgia or a 1-loss or a 2-loss SMU or a 2-loss Miami? You know what I mean? Who are you going to take?
They'll definitely take the P4.
I'll take Tennessee or Georgia.
Yeah. They definitely will. I think there's definitely a chance, especially, I mean, they're going to need Boise to lose.
It's just really hard because the SEC is going to probably have 6 teams with 2 losses or 6 or 7 teams with 2 losses or something like that.
I mean, the fact that 4 of the top 5 are all from the same conference, the Big Ten, like there's no way the SEC's not going to be okay with just getting a few teams in. They're going to want the same amount as the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So, if you're an ACC or a Big 12 homer, be prepared to be disappointed. You're going to get your conference champion and that's it.
Yep.
And Penn State and Ohio State, they're doing the same thing here. They don't want to play in that title game because regardless, one of them is going to be in. And you don't want to go play Oregon. I mean, you just don't want to play Oregon. And I know Oregon probably doesn't want to play either and lose, but regardless, Oregon will be in no matter what. It's just, do they get the bye week or not?
Yeah, and the bye.
protect Dylan and the receivers and all that. So
Yeah.
I mean, just based off Penn State's schedule, if they make the Big Ten championship game and lose to Oregon, they shouldn't make the playoff because they've had 2 chances on their schedule to win a big game. They lost them both. I mean, they would have no quality wins on their schedule.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. All right, let's get into some games for this weekend. Let me get my notes pulled back up over here. First game, speaking of, Tennessee, Georgia. Line opened to 16.5. Now it come down to 11. The over-under for this is sitting at 48.5. Money line for Tennessee is sitting at plus 310. As of right now, Nico's still questionable. I was reading a report earlier that said they were optimistic, but they didn't know. And a couple of people are claiming that he's not playing, but Josh Heupel saying there's a good chance he does play, so no clue. So I haven't bet anything on this, and I'm probably going to wait to see if he does play. But John, we'll let you go first. Are you playing anything out of this game? If so, what are you playing?
I don't know. I don't know. It's very reliant on Nico playing, and I don't want to put it on one player here. But Tennessee's backup's just that bad. It's Nico or nothing. So if Nico plays, I definitely lean Tennessee here. Just for the fact that they have a good enough defense to force the turnovers. I mean, Carson Beck's turnover prone. They have a good enough defense to get pressure and force the turnovers. Tennessee has Dylan Sampson, who can run the ball well, and Nico does seem to somewhat be hitting a stride again. I don't know what's really starting to click with them. They're not putting up electrifying, crazy numbers that they're used to putting up with Josh Heupel, but he does seem to somewhat be hitting somewhat of a stride again. So if Nico plays here, I definitely, and I know there's a lot of people that we respect as a whole, me and Jose especially, that's on Georgia here. I just can't do it. The other than the Texas game, the defense has been good but not great, not the caliber that you would expect out of a Georgia team. The offense has been awful, one of the worst offenses I've ever seen watching Georgia over the years. So yeah, I lean Tennessee here. I will not play it until I know Nico's playing, and I know that is going to move the line if he does come in and play, if he is officially playing. I think for Tennessee here, you have to somehow get Nico in this game. If he can play, he needs to play, because you do not want to get blown out by Georgia. If you get blown out by Georgia, then that's going to look pretty tough on you as a 2-loss SEC team to get into the playoffs. So I lean Tennessee here for the fact of their defense is good enough to force the turnovers. And if Nico's in there and Dylan Sampson and the receivers, I think that they can capitalize on some of those turnovers. I think it will be a low-scoring game. I would say like 21-17 or something.
Jose, you playing anything?
This is a tough week for John because it's his favorite team, Georgia, going up against his real favorite team, Tennessee, because every year, whether it's basketball or football, John always has a feature on Tennessee to win the national championship.
Don't forget about college baseball.
Yeah, and baseball.
Yeah, baseball too. So this is a tough week for John Boy. Look, I couldn't agree more. I don't know why all the love's coming in for Georgia. I mean, how can you back this team right now, just given how Carson Beck this offense looks? In reality, I mean, just take what we saw last week. Right? Like we saw Ole Miss absolutely destroy this Georgia offensive line. I think they got 8 sacks in that game. Was it? Or am I mistaken? But I know the defensive line destroyed Georgia that game. Walton Nolan had a fantastic game. Who has a defensive line just as good as Ole Miss's, if not better? Tennessee. So why am I getting 11 points here? I understand it's on the road. Conventionally, you would expect Kirby Smart at home, get right game, get everything back to normal, steer the ship properly. That's fine. I mean, he's earned that respect, right? This Georgia team has earned that respect. If they go out there and do that, it wouldn't shock me, right? That's how in dynasties, these are the games they come out and win. But I just, as of right now, this very moment, I can't put any money behind Carson Beck. And we've been fading him the past few weeks, and it's been pretty profitable. Is Nico going to play? That's the big question. If he plays, I'll be betting Tennessee 11 points or whatever it is, 10 or more. I'll be betting Tennessee. And again, it's a pretty simple handicap. Tennessee's defensive line should be able to feast against Georgia's offensive line, who's been pretty underwhelming this season, to be honest with you. I expect a little bit more. And again, we just saw them get torched against Ole Miss. And Carson Beck, at some point, he'll throw a pick. It'll probably be a boneheaded pick in his own red zone and turn the tide. The line is speaking to me a little bit. Like the fact that it's 11 points would make me think, oh, it's kind of a trappy line.
Yeah.
So it does kind of throw me off a little bit. And again, there are some people that I respect that are coming in on Georgia. I just can't get behind it, man. I don't know why. I don't know why this line is jumping like that. I know you said the line opened at 16.5, Tyler. I think that was a summer number.
Yeah.
The number I saw was about 7.5, 8. And there was some immediate steam all for Georgia. Now that it's at 11, I feel much more comfortable taking Tennessee here. Will it be a big bet? No. A small little birthday bet, sure. Have some fun with it. Do I think Tennessee is live to win this game? Yeah, I do. Like I do think Tennessee, they have the components to give Georgia a real fit. So, plus 300 or so, Tennessee on the money line. I don't hate it. Tennessee getting 11 points. I don't hate that either. So I'll be playing the Vols here. Just can't back Carson Beck. He's got to show it to me first. And again, Tennessee has the recipe, the formula, right? The defensive line, if they can wreak havoc, like we just saw Georgia struggle against Ole Miss, that should be good enough. So I'll take Tennessee getting 11 points, and I'll be joining John on this one.
Texas goes to Arkansas. Line opened at 16, is now come down to 13. Total for this is sitting at 57.5, and the money line for Arkansas is sitting at plus 400. I'm not touching this shit. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I'm tired of betting Arkansas because every time I bet Arkansas, they get absolutely shit on. The 2 times I have bet Arkansas, after I told myself specifically I don't bet on my teams, they got absolutely murked in both games. So I'm not touching this game whatsoever. But Jose, we'll see if either one of y'all are gonna play anything. Are you playing anything in this game?
No, I lean Texas though.
Yeah, we suck.
Is Sam Pittman done? Like I'm seeing reports that he may be stepping away.
I would say I've seen that he's gonna retire.
He's gonna.
Is what I'm seeing right now.
He's retiring, so they don't have to fire.
So they don't have to fire him. Type deal. I think
much,
he's just gonna go to his lake house and call it.
He's calling
quits.
it a career.
Yeah.
That's
what I mean.
And that's respectful. Like, don't fire
the
guy. You know what I mean? Just let him go out.
Well, he's beloved. I mean, he is. Like he's an Arkansas guy through and through, and like he's loved by everybody at the university. We're just trash. So
okay. On that note, real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to Brian Mohan, the head coach at Kennesaw State, or the former head coach at Kennesaw State.
Yeah.
Because that man was Kennesaw State through and through. He was the only head coach in their history. And for Kennesaw State to fire that man midway through the season.
I would say before the season's even over.
When the team you already know sucks ass, what are you going to go do anyways? Like, why are you firing him? What are you going to go bring in? They're going to bring in some offensive coordinator that's going to fix the fucking program? Like, that just really rubbed me the wrong way to know that they fired that guy a few weeks after they knocked off John's Liberty. That's an embarrassment. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. It really ticked me off that they would do that to that guy. Sorry. But yeah, I agree. I think Sam Pittman's one way or the other. This will be his last few games here.
Yeah, this will be his last ride for sure.
And it'll be return to the neck brace. My boy Bobby Petrino going to take over, right?
Yeah, probably. I hope not. Honestly, to keep it a buck with you, I hope not. But probably.
If he's a real dude, he'll come out on the let's say Sam Pittman steps away before the bowl game, and Arkansas obviously makes one. If he comes out of the bowl game tunnel like riding a motorcycle with a neck brace on, they should give him a lifetime contract.
Oh, without a doubt, I'd be jacked if he does that. I'd be jacked for him to be the head coach at that point in time. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably going to be him. I kind of low key hope it's not. Because I don't know if he can recruit worth a damn to keep it a buck with you, but we'll see. That's kind of what it's leaning towards. John, you play anything in this game? Texas?
No, I do lean Texas here. I think this is one of those games where they just show up and show out. We kind of talked about this Arkansas team at the beginning of the year that they were going to have 1 or 2 games where this team would just show up and beat someone they weren't supposed to beat. Well, they've done that.
They already did that.
I think it's over now. I think this seems they rode their high. They're looking to get one more win to get a bowl, and they're done for.
Yep.
Do you want Taylor Green back next season, Tyler?
No,
Really?
no, I do not.
Wow.
I think he's a great athlete and he can run like a gazelle. But
I think he'll leave. I think somebody will come after him.
I think they will too. But I don't think it'll be anything crazy. I really don't. I mean, he can't throw.
Florida State's going to come calling.
They're going to go
Michigan.
2-10 again. They're also going to go 2-10.
He's in trouble, by the way. Mike Norvell's in real trouble, guys.
Yeah,
They fired the whole staff.
Yeah, everybody.
If you clean your house like that during the season, you're pretty much saying, like, you know what? I'm firing these guys to save my own ass.
Yeah.
And he knows his seat's getting hot.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But yeah.
No, I don't think Taylor will stay, and I hope he doesn't keep it. But cause it's frustrating because he takes a snap and his very first instinct is just run. Like before he gets through any progressions, he doesn't even he sees the first read. If it's not there, it's take off. I'm like, you can't do that every single play and think that it's going to work every single time because it's not going to. It's just not going to. Now, part of that, our offensive line stinks. And that's one thing that has frustrated me the most with Pittman is him supposedly being an offensive line guy. Our offensive line has been garbage every year.
Yeah.
And it's not much better this year. Now, they have been a little better. I'll give them that. They were better, for sure better than they were last year. But so it's his first instinct is get the snap, look at the first read. If it's not there, okay, well, I'm running. Okay, well, you can't do that. Like every play and expect that they expect to win very many games doing that. So I don't think he'll be here personally. Next game on the slate, Clemson goes to Pitt, lined open at 9.5. It's only gone up half points in at 10. The total for this game is 53.5 money line for Pitt is sitting at plus 300. John, you playing anything on this game?
No, I do like Clemson here though. I know Pitt's offense is really good here, but they got to play a really, really good Clemson defense. I know Clemson's been struggling as of late, but I think they kind of get it back together this game. They're going to have to win every possible game they can that's left and hope Miami or SMU loses to even have a chance. So I think Clemson knows that. I think they're going to play. They're going to give it everything they got, play as hard as they can. They do actually have the team to do it defensively and offensively. So Pittsburgh as a whole, their defense is not that great. Their offense is very fast-paced. They got a good quarterback. They got a good offense. Runs at mock speed. I mean, but I think Clemson's defense will be able to slow it down.
Jose, you playing anything?
No, but I like Clemson as well. Like Pitt's kind of come crashing back down to earth, right? They got blown out against SMU. That was kind of like the equalizing game, and then lost last week against Virginia. A very good Virginia team, by the way. Very, very impressed with their season so far. But it's coming down back to earth for Pitt. Clemson, I don't think they have any straightforward path to the CFP as far as like an at-large, bid. If they're gonna make it, it's gonna be to the ACC at this point. Unless there's like massive chaos with these other SEC teams, and they all just start cannibalizing each other and they all go down.
Yeah.
In which case, Clemson would still need to. They can't just win these games. They have to blow these teams out. So yeah, if you're gonna back a team here, I think you would go Clemson just on the hopes that they show everything. Because what are you holding back now at this point? You know what I mean? Like, what are you saving your stuff for? You have to win these games, and you have to win them by a lot. To improve your metrics, to improve the eye test, and then just hope some of these other teams lose. I'm not a big fan of this team. We talked about it in the preseason. Klubnik hasn't been the quarterback that some of us thought he could be. Maybe the potential he hasn't fulfilled it. He's another guy who I'm curious. We just talked about Jalen Green entering the portal. It wouldn't surprise me if he decides to move on. I think it's safe to say that it hasn't been like a perfect marriage for him and for Clemson. So I don't know. I would lean Clemson here again in the hopes that they just show out because they kind of have no choice at this point, and Pitt has become crashing down to earth. But yeah, no strong play for me on this one.
Mizzou goes to South Carolina this weekend. Line open to 15.5, now 12.5. Total sitting at 44, and money line for Mizzou is at plus 375. I'm not touching this Mizzou team. But I will say that. Did y'all see the end of that Mizzou-Oklahoma game last weekend?
That was ridiculous.
That was insane. Absolutely insanity. how that game ended. That was actually a lot better than what I was expecting that game to be. But I think it was more because of the bad football than it was it just being two good teams duking it out.
Oh, no, that was horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was entertaining though. I'll give them that. It was entertaining. John, you play anything in this game?
Probably the under.
Yeah.
If I was gonna play anything, I'd play the under here. I can't back either one of these. I think South Carolina's the better team, especially on the defensive side of the ball here. Mizzou hasn't shown me much this year, offensively or defensively. They've been very underwhelming from what they should have been. South Carolina's at home. Jose kind of talked about it a week or two ago. Columbia's, they got a real home field advantage down there. So,
yeah, it's lit.
I think I lean South Carolina here, 13.5. That's kind of a lot for me though. No play, but maybe the under if anything.
Yeah, I like the underplay a lot. Jose, you play anything?
I am going to be backing South Carolina minus $1 million. I don't care what the spread is. They're going to absolutely beat the shit out of Missouri.
Yeah.
And by the way, Eli Drinkwitz after the game in the post-game conference talking about, or the post-game interview saying, "Oh, we're still in the playoff hunt." I just said it. We're still there. You're not. Don't even give me that shit. Your team sucks, dude. I'm assuming this line is dropping because Brady Cook's probably going to play this one. I don't care. Missouri, South Carolina's defensive line is going to eat them alive. This Mizzou team sucks. We've talked about it all season. We didn't believe in any of them. Luther Burden's been a complete disappointment this year. South Carolina's defensive line is like legitimately the best in the country. I mean, I'm impressed with these guys week in, week out. Dylan Stewart's the best freshman in the country. Maybe on offense and defense. That's how dominant he's been. I know you talked about it, Todd. He may get paid by somebody else. I hope not, because I really want to see South Carolina good. And by the way, if South Carolina wouldn't have got robbed against LSU week 3 of the season, that team would be they would be in the hunt right now. Like, they would have legitimate chance to make the CFP. Like, they have looked phenomenal for a majority of this season. Beamer really, really. He didn't just save his job. I mean, he gave himself a pay raise.
He got himself an extension.
Yeah, an extension. He's been phenomenal this season, guys. This whole South Carolina team, I've been really high on. I backed him a few weeks ago against A&M. I told you guys this team it's better than what it's showing. I know they're 13.5-point favorites now. I know it's a lot of points to lay. I don't care. They're gonna beat the shit out of Missouri. Missouri is a fraud team. It's all coming back down to earth for them. South Carolina's on the up and up, guys. I know 9-3 is not gonna get you in the playoffs, but they'll be one of the first teams out. Like, they'll be like in that 13 to 16 range. And it's going to be, what could have been had they held on against LSU. South Carolina minus $1 million. I don't care. They're going to blow out Missouri.
Yeah. I don't know how Missouri's still ranked, honestly.
How are they still ranked? How?
They're trash.
I don't know. South Carolina is one of those teams that I could really see go try and get a big quarterback in the portal this offseason.
I'll tell you what, if they're able to keep a lot of these pieces, especially on defense, guys, like, this is a team I want to be buying next year.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that really, I'm not saying Sellers is bad, but he's just if they can find a we're talking like an elite type quarterback here with some experience under his belt, I'm not saying Jackson Dart. I'm just like a Jackson Dart. You know what I mean? If they could get someone like that with experience and all the arm talent in the world to come over there to South Carolina, you know what I mean? They'd have a real chance to make a push next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this would definitely looks like a team to possibly buy next year, depending on how the transfer portal and stuff goes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of one of those people. I don't know exactly how y'all felt. I was kind of writing them off before the season started.
I did too.
Like Lenore Sellers, they had some big playmakers leave, and I thought, this is kind of it. With what they lost to the draft and the transfer portal. I was like, yeah, I think this is going to be, kind of it for Beamer there at South Carolina. Boy, was I wrong. I'll be the first to admit it too. And I'm honestly happy to admit it. I'm jacked for Beamer in South Carolina, to keep it a buck with you, because they're a good football team. They really are. Kansas goes to BYU, lined open at 7. It's got to be Summerline maybe, because it's down to 2.5. 56.5 sitting as the total, and Kansas at plus 115 is the money line. Jose, I know you got a play. I think I also have the same play, and I think John also has the same play. So why are you taking Kansas in this game?
For those of you who don't know, anybody listening to this podcast, Saturday is my birthday. So what better way to celebrate a birthday than winning a gigantic amount of money on one of your favorite teams? Because I've adopted this Kansas team. I know John orphaned them. I've adopted them. I love this team. This team has
John's
really
coming back now that Iowa State's done. He's coming back.
This team has turned the corner, and it all starts with Jalen Daniels. When the season started, guys, he was really bad. Like, they were calls for this guy to get benched. Wasn't playing well at all. Wasn't reading defenses, throwing a lot of interceptions, a lot of fumbles. Just overall playing really bad at the quarterback position. These last few games, they've turned it around, specifically with that Kansas State game, that Sunflower State rivalry a matchup. They probably could have won that game, by the way. Ever since that game, he's really turned it on. A lot better as a quarterback, the Jalen Daniels that we expect him to be. And you want to talk about a potential transfer portal target. I mean, I didn't realize he was only a junior. I thought he was a senior. If he gets in that portal, if he keeps playing the way he's playing right now, he's going to be a hot commodity for a lot of these teams. Can you imagine South Carolina with Jalen Daniels? This version of Jalen Daniels? I mean, he is going to be one of the top targets for all these teams. But he's playing a lot better. Devin Neal running the ball a lot better. He's always been fantastic. I believe he just took over the career rushing yard lead at Kansas all time. So congrats to him. He's a fantastic player. I think we all agree. He's one of the better running backs we've seen in the Big 12 in a while. Highshaw, the backup running back's been playing great. They've always had, they've had a plethora of receivers, whether it's Skinner or Arnold. They've had, talent there. It's just about Jalen Daniels distributing the ball, and he's been able to do that. They've all looked fantastic. BYU, I can't pound the drum enough. This team is fraud. They're not that good, right? Last week they should have lost against Utah. Had a miracle win, just in a game where it was pretty much over. The referee saved them. They had a kick return for a touchdown. I mean, how much more of that stuff are they going to get? I think it ends here. I took Kansas +3. I'm going to take Kansas money line at some point. I'm going to have maybe too much money on Kansas, but this is where it ends. I'm sorry. And you know what? Let me just say this as a caveat. Let me just point this out. That even if Kansas loses this game, I'm not going to be mad. Why? Because who does Kansas play next week? Colorado. So if Kansas loses this game, they'll probably be like +3 against Colorado at home next week, in which I'll make my money back in Kansas next week. If Kansas wins this week, then obviously I won my bet. But they'll probably open up like Kansas pick or Kansas -1 against Colorado. I'm going to bet on Kansas anyways, but it's a win-win. If they lose this week, I'll make it back next week on that +3. If they win this week, then no big deal. I already won my money, and I'll bet more on against Colorado. This Kansas team is 3-6. They're going to make a bowl game. They're going to win their bowl game. Lance Leopold's still a good coach. They still have a really damn good offense. Defense is playing better. The pass defense is looking great. And I talked about earlier, Resclaff, the quarterback of BYU, he can't throw. I mean, the man is missing receivers high, missing receivers low, wide, short. It don't matter. He just can't throw the ball. I really like Kansas in this matchup, guys. Maybe not my biggest bet of the season, but it's getting up there. This is where it all comes to die. This is where it ends for BYU. Their CFP hopes end here. 7:15 Pacific time, so I believe it's 10 o'clock your time. I hope you guys stay up and watch this one. I hope everyone here listening to this podcast takes Kansas. It's my favorite bet of the week. Last week was my favorite bet of the week was Kansas against Iowa State. That one won relatively easily. Now is the time to buy Kansas. Now is the time to fade BYU. Give me the Jayhawks. Give me Jalen Daniels. I know John disowned them. I will gladly take over them for them. Give me the Jayhawks here, baby.
Yeah, I am also hammering Kansas this weekend. No need to go into it any further. Also, BYU's getting 75% of the bets in this game this weekend too. John, are you? I'm assuming you're taking Kansas in this game.
My Jayhawks, man.
He's back.
Oh, don't give me that.
He's back.
Don't give me that.
Don't
He's
coming back.
No, I want you to, dude. You're lucky. You're lucky we can't afford an editor, John. If we could afford an editor, I would have him play the clip of you disowning the Jayhawks in the Big 12
I've been backing
title.
this team
Don't
for
give me
3 years. I've been backing this team for 3 years. No reason not to now. Kansas will
back
win.
in the fight.
And you knew when John took on Iowa State this year, when they played Kansas, Iowa State was going to lose. You knew they were going to lose last week. You knew Kansas wasn't going to go out like that against Iowa State.
Jalen Daniels,
Oh,
I said
my
it
God.
last year. I'll say it again. Playing at a Heisman level, man.
Oh,
I don't believe this.
Jayhawks win. BYU's out. My Jayhawks are back, baby. Football and basketball.
Jesus Christ.
I knew
That's
it was
fine.
coming too. I knew it was coming too.
So we're all on Kansas.
Yeah, everybody's on Kansas. Absolutely smash Kansas. All right, John, get into your college basketball breakdown.
Oh yeah. All right. We're gonna look at 3 games. These are all Friday night games. And I'm gonna have Jose pitch in on a couple of these here. First one we got here is Alabama against Purdue. Should be a fire game. Alabama, one of the best offensive in the country, if not the best outside of Gonzaga. My Gonzaga Bulldogs. This should be a really good game. Purdue suffered a pretty big loss, losing their big man down low. And that kind of showed the other night when they played Yale. And Purdue's very reliant on Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. The big man down low, he's pretty good. God, I can't think of his name right now. You know how I'm talking about, Jose.
Are you on Alabama or on?
No. On Purdue.
Oh, Kaufman Wren?
Kaufman Wren, yes. He's a pretty good player if he stays out of foul trouble. This is at Purdue here. I do think Alabama's offense is going to be too much for Purdue. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I know the line right now is the projected. I don't know what the line is, but the projection for my end would be Alabama +1. And the only reason because of that is because it's at Purdue here. I'll probably be on Alabama this game. I do think it'll be close, but Alabama's offense will prevail here, and it'll be a higher scoring game. Jose?
If Alabama's getting any points or at plus money, I'll be on Alabama for sure. In fact, I don't even see how. I would be shocked if Alabama's not favored. I mean, I hope they're not. I don't know, but if that's what the line is, yeah, I'll be.
Yeah, the projection at the moment, which I don't really know what it's going to look like, considering they struggled against Yale the other day. But the projection right now would be Purdue -1.5. So we'll have to see kind of where that goes. And then another big matchup here we have, and I kind of want to get your input a little bit here because I know you like Maryland. Marquette goes to Maryland. Maryland, the projection on this game, let's see, we got. Yeah, the projection is Maryland -2 on this game for me. I think Marquette will open as a favorite this game, so I will be on Maryland if so. This is in Maryland. This Maryland team is sneaky this year. Marquette, they do have a lot of returning pieces, but nothing that is really crazy outside of Cam Jones. They lost Kolek, other players, and Maryland, they've been playing extremely well. They have that one big man. I believe his name is Julian Reese, or is it Julian Reese? Yeah,
Angel Reese's brother.
Yeah, he's been balling out. Yeah, I really like this Maryland team. At home, I think they're going to open up as underdogs, and there's just going to be value there. This Maryland team has been sneaky. They haven't got a lot of coverage. Right now, as of the last 10 games, they're both in the top 10 defense in the country, ranked number 9th in efficiency. So, yeah, I think that they can get it done against this Marquette team, who has somewhat struggled at the beginning. I know they've won every game, but they've somewhat struggled here and there.
I know you talked about Kolek, John, but to me the bigger loss is Iguodaro, their center.
Oh yeah, they lost. Yeah, both to the draft.
Yeah, he was a great player, and he ran a lot of that offense for them when Kolek wasn't on the field. Obviously provides height, and that's one thing that Maryland really has this year. Like they have a few 7-footers or at least 6'10" guys. Julian Reese 6'10", Derek Queen, their 5-star center that just brought in from high school. He's 6'10". I think Maryland can really attack him down low. They also brought on a transfer from Belmont who I really like, Jacoby Gillespie.
Yeah.
And at the Xfinity Center in Maryland, that's a tough place to play at. You know, the stadium's going to be jumping there.
Yeah.
I'm just not really high on this Marquette team. I know Cam Jones. I respect him, but other players like David Joplin, who was supposed to like really take off last year, I think he's more of a 6-man. That's when he played a lot better in that role. I'm not sure if he's starting this year. If he is, it makes me like them even less because I just don't think he's all that good.
Fun fact: Joplin went 0 for 11 from the field the other night.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know that. I was never really high. I had no idea, but I was never high on this game. I respect Cam Jones. He's by far and away their best player. I also like their other guard. I believe his name's Stevie Mitchell. I want to say he's pretty damn good as well. They have some good players, but overall, like they don't have that alpha that Tyler Kolek provided. They don't have that down low presence like Ignaro. So I think it really shows here.
Another thing with this Marquette team this year is they're not as deep as they normally are. They're very reliant on those front five, and outside of that, they've got some pieces that are still learning the system and learning the team, in my opinion. So outside of that, they're not very deep. Like they were bringing guys off the bench their sixth, seventh, and even eighth men were bench players that were high caliber players, and they just don't have that this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Big East as a whole is going to be down this year. So
yeah,
I think it kind of shows here. And the main reason I like Maryland in this game, honestly, is because I bet on them to win it all last year. So the year after I bet on a team, they ended up being really good. So
yeah,
I mean, based on that logic, you wouldn't want to take Maryland
yeah.
here.
There's there's a lot of good games Friday night here for y'all to watch.
Really good games.
Not as many on Saturday. I'll run through some of my projections really quick here, and you guys can just kind of jot them down as you're listening. Keep them close, and watch for the lines to drop immediately. But this Arizona-Wisconsin game, Arizona goes to Wisconsin. I have that projected at Arizona -5. So you'll have to just jot these down and see where they open. Arizona going to Wisconsin. This Arizona team is really good, really deep. I have that as Arizona -5. I've already told you about the Alabama-Purdue game. Ohio State goes to A&M. That game is projected A&M -4. So we'll have to kind of – Ohio State, they've got a really good guard, and I believe his name is Burden or Burnett or something like that. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but I get so many I have so many players in my head, and they all get jumbled up. But they have a really good guard, Ohio State does, that can shoot lights out and keep them in the games. But A&M as a whole, they're a good, solid team. They're going to make a run, one of the better SEC teams. They'll be in the tournament at the end of the year. So I have that at A&M -4, 4.5. We already talked about the Marquette Maryland game. You got Florida playing Florida State. Florida's projection on that would be -7. Penn State playing Virginia Tech. Penn State would be -3.5. TCU plays Michigan. That game is a pick'em. I lean Michigan that game. I know they dropped a game earlier in the year, so they could end up being a dog that game, but we'll just have to see. Really like what Dusty has done with that team, and I think that they'll put it together once they kind of have.
I like Michigan in that game.
Yeah, once they kind of have the experience together as a team. But yeah, I do like Michigan that game. West Virginia plays Pitt. I mean, all these are top 100 matchups right here. West Virginia plays Pitt. I have that projected at Pitt -7. SMU Butler. SMU's got a sneaky good squad this year. That is projected SMU -1. I will probably be on Butler simply because Butler is one of the hardest places to go to in the country and play a game. Butler is at home here, and I do like this Butler team. I am kind of also down on the Big East as a whole this year, but going to Butler is one of the toughest places to play. That stadium or that arena gets rocket, man. So I like Butler that game, even if SMU is -1. I'll probably be on Butler money line that game. Georgia plays Georgia Tech, another top 100 matchup. Georgia's been sneaky good this year.
I like Georgia.
Yeah, they're protected.
I like the roster. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, they got a good roster. That game's projected -1. It is at Georgia Tech. Let's see, is there anything else? Villanova and Virginia. I don't really know what to think about this Virginia team. It looks like that's a neutral site game as well. I don't really know what to think about this Virginia team after losing Tony Bennett so close to the season. The projection on that game is a pick'em. Kyle Neptune and this Villanova team, man, outside of Eric Dixon, they don't really have anyone. And this Villanova team is not very good, and I saw it the other night when they played St. Joe's. I backed St. Joe's that game. St. Joe's is a very good Atlantic 10 team that is deep and are going to make a push for the A10 title with VCU and Dayton. I think
Can
Virginia might be able to pull it out, but I'm not really sure. I don't really know what to think about this Virginia team. Go ahead, Jose.
I was going to say really quickly on the topic of Tony Bennett, right? Is there any difference? I'm sure you saw Thomas Castellanos walked away from BC
Yes.
earlier this week.
Yes,
He
yes,
transferred.
yes.
Okay, I know they're saying he quit on the team. I'm sorry. I know Tony Bennett has all the respect in the world. He's a great guy. But what he did, leaving his team like 2 weeks before the season started, is that not quitting on your team?
Yeah,
Like, is
it
that not
for
just as
sure.
bad?
And
You
he
can't do
got
that
a-
right before the season started, dude. You can't
He
do
got
that.
a lot of praise too, which is kind of shocking. to me.
Yeah,
He
I
got
couldn't-
a lot of praise of like kudos to him for going out because the game was tough on him. The game's
No.
hard. The game's hard on him now. The way the game is now with NIL and stuff, it's just so hard. Good for him to get out of it when he did. No, you gave up on your team, a perennial ACC contender team,
A few weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks before the season started, which opens the transfer portal for that team. And I know
And
they
someone
lost.
transferred.
One of their better players left, and I don't blame the kid. But
No, I mean-
regardless, yeah, it's just I don't
And-
really know what to think about Virginia.
And I'm not advocating for Castellanos. Like, you don't do that. You don't leave your team like that in the middle of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, like, Tony Bennett, like what he did is just as bad. I know he's a great guy, and I'm sure he is, but you don't do that. You don't just quit on
Yeah.
your team like that.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I agree, man, wholeheartedly. Just like a couple more games here I want to go through. These are all really good games. If you guys don't watch college basketball or keep up with it, these are games you guys should watch. Iowa plays Washington State. That game is projected as a pick'em. FAU plays Charleston. That game is projected as a pick'em in Charleston. UAB High Point. High Point is a very good squad this year. That game is projected High Point -4 at High Point. UAB's got a good squad. And then lastly but not least, a game I'm going to be watching. I'm excited for Loyola Chicago playing Princeton. Very good Ivy League school that's going to make a push for that Ivy League championship. I like that this game is going to be lit. I am actually fairly high on Loyola Chicago this year. I have Loyola -2 here going to Princeton. That should be an electric game. That is one of the games I will be watching. I'll most likely be on Loyola Chicago for that game as well. But that's really about it for basketball. There's nothing too crazy. We already had our big games on Tuesday night with Kentucky and Duke and Michigan State playing Kansas in the Champions Classic. Both very good games. And outside of that, you got some of these really good sneaky matchups Friday, and that's really about it for this week.
Hey, listen, I know we're not the most articulate with our words, but if you follow us on Action on Reddit, guys, we really do. And we back up what we say, and I think so far we're 20-9 on Reddit on our best bets. And college basketball is where we're 3-1 on our best bets. And generally, John and I have had a pretty good start to the season.
If you see any bet right now, all my bets are half units in basketball because the way that I do my projections, the best route for me, and I've talked with other people who are very highly regarded experts, people who were the developers of shot quality. I know a lot of you basketball fans know what shot quality is. I've talked with them and other people, and they all say, the method that you use projection-wise and stuff like that, it's best to bet quantity over quality. But when there's a quality game, you see me place 1 unit or more on a team, there is something wrong with the line. Like that team, something has happened. And I'm not saying I'm going to win every single one of those, but I am 3-0 right now on the 3 bets that I've placed 1 unit or more on. And every single team has won by almost 40 points on a spread that was like -11, -4, and like -14 or something. Every team has won by 40 some points. So if you see a 1 unit bet from me, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but you probably want to back it quickly as possible because the lines are going to move quick.
Hey, just tomorrow we bet Kansas State -4. It's already at 7.5.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game, really.
Yeah.
Just get the best number.
Especially in basketball, you want to get the best number possible. I know I opened that Kansas State line at -4. Literally, my projection was -4.5. It opened at -4. You were all over it, and now it's up to -7.5 in less than 4 hours. I mean,
and it may lose.
And
It may lose, but
happens
you know
quick.
what? It's about getting the best number, because over time these things
Mhm.
you will win more than you lose based on
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
these edges.
And another thing about betting college basketball for you guys who are getting in it with me and Jose here, and is that it's just like college basketball is a game of runs. Betting is also a game of runs. You're hot and you're cold, and in college basketball, that's what happens. I'll go on a streak where I'm winning 8 out of 10 bets, and then I'll have a day where I lose every bet. And if North Dakota State don't cover, which it looks like they're going to, but I was going to lose all 4 of my bets tonight. But it just happens. I mean, that's what happens, and especially in college basketball when you're playing quantity over quality, like I do. Outside of those 3 1 unit plus bets, I'm 3-0 on. You're going to have really good days and really bad days. You just got to take the punches, and at the end of the year, you stick to your system. You don't chase. Uh, you'll end up ahead. But and I know my system works. I've been very profitable on it. The last few years I've ran it, and you just gotta stick it. It's a grind, but follow us and we'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Tyler came back. No, I got to step away. So if not,
Yeah,
we'll
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure, but I know we're coming up towards the end of college football season, guys, and we still have a lot of ways to go in regards to bowl season and conference championships and obviously playoff. But we're not going away. Once college football ends, we're jumping right into college basketball. That's John's favorite sport. It's probably my favorite sport, I guess. Maybe college football, but either way, it's one of my favorite sports. We're going to be all over here. Tyler's going to be back with us betting it this year, so
Yeah.
we're not going away. We're going to be here. Make sure you guys follow us on all our socials and just keep an eye out for the stuff like that.
Yeah, because we'll ride this thing through the tournament in March.
Yeah.
Um,
And one thing for you all to look out for too is we run a big tournament pool every year. Jose can contest to it. I mean, we've gotten upwards to $600-700 payout every year. $20, and this is a $20 bracket that you get to put in, one bracket per person. And I mean, this thing gets up to $600-700 some years. So that will be open for you guys to join. And you can pay $20 and get you a bracket. It is so worth it.
Absolutely.
all right. Let's go ahead and close this thing out. Has anybody bet anything college football wise other
Yep.
than Kansas?
Yep.
All right. What have you
I have.
taken?
Mercer plus 41.5.
Oh, fuck you.
Listen, dude. Listen. This team is good. They're gonna be in the FCS playoffs. They put up 30 plus points every week. How many points? I know they're playing Alabama. I don't care. How many points do you think they got put up? 14 to cover that?
To cover, yeah,
41 and a half?
41 to cover 41 and a half against Alabama, an Alabama team who has no incentive to show anything. Maybe 7 points, I guess.
Mercer will score 20 points this game. Mercer plus 41 and a half. I'm taking it.
My boys were
Not a
all
joke.
with
Not a
Mercer.
joke. I'm taking Mercer. Mercer plus 41 and a half. Kansas money line. And as long as I get the okay that Nico's in, I will be on Tennessee plus 10.
Yeah. Jose, what else are you taking other than Kansas?
Mercer.
No, but I am taking Kansas. We're all taking Kansas. Kansas will win this game. They will cover. I'm also taking Tulane -7 at Navy, guys. Tulane's kind of peaking at the right time. They have a massive schedule coming up. They play Navy and they play against Memphis on Thanksgiving Day. And given the NFL schedule this year, this may be the best football game on Thanksgiving. Memphis against Tulane. I think this team is, like I said, they're really peaking at the right time. I'm buying into this team now. Do they have a chance to make the CFP? A slight one. I mean, aside from, I guess, Army and I guess Wazoo, like we talked about, they're the next team in after BYU, after Boise State. So I don't know. I like the way they're playing. Also going to be laying 2.5 with Baylor on the road at West Virginia. I'm not sure if Garrett Green is playing. If he is, it doesn't really matter to me. I think the number is already baked in there to whereas if he is playing. I think this Baylor team is actually pretty good. Aranda saved his job. And we talked about Beamer. Aranda has really turned it around at Baylor this season. And I think the momentum keeps going here in Morgantown. I want to take the Gators, getting 4.5 at home against LSU, as long as LeGuay plays. If he plays, we just talked about how running quarterbacks give LSU fits. If he's in there, I will gladly take the 4.5. South Carolina -1,000,000. You put the number up there, they're going to cover it. I don't care. Missouri is not very good this year. South Carolina should feast in this game. Also going to be laying the 8.5 with Kansas State against Arizona State. I think Arizona State's a good team, but they're not this good. Kansas State has a lot to play for. Have a real shot at making their the Big 12 championship game. Just a little bit of help. So I'll lay that 8.5 with Kansas State. I'm probably going to have a lot more on this game. I have big plans to just watch every single game this weekend. So make sure you follow us on Action for that. But as of right now, those will be my favorite plays, my favorite of which being the Kansas Jayhawks, my Kansas Jayhawks that I adopted when someone kicked them to the curb.
Do you know that? Do you know that me and Jalen Daniels text each other? We're best friends. Like,
Yeah. I need to get the feature editor to go back and put in the vocals of when John kicked his team to the curb and said, "I'm taking Iowa State this year."
In like July.
Yeah, in like July,
Yeah.
and said, "No, Jalen, I can't do it this year with you. You burned me too many times."
One thing I want to add really quickly here on that Navy Tulane game is that I feel like Navy has given up on the year as well.
Yeah.
After that beatdown that Notre Dame gave them, and then they ended up losing to Rice the next week, I just feel like Navy could care less at this point. They already got a bowl game. They have nothing else to play for. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I like that Tulane play a lot.
Yeah, Tulane's really peaking, guys. And like I said, they're ranked 25. The committee respects them. I mean, if some shit happens, then they could fuck around and find themselves in the CFP.
Yeah.
And they'll be live. They'll be live to win a game.
All right, let's hit a dog parlay of the week, and then we'll wrap it up. We're going to go with Kansas, as we are all on Kansas. We're going to go with Tennessee against Georgia this weekend, and I'm going to go with Rutgers against Maryland. I think they were catching 6.
Mine was Tennessee. Now, given if Nico doesn't play, I would like to switch Tennessee out for Mercer if I can.
Oh,
No shot, bro.
what's that going to pay?
My boy's riding the Mercer
120
into
to
the
1?
ground, bro.
Hey, I'll give you guys a sneaky underdog real quick, just for the sake of the video in a few seconds. San Jose State, +14, live on the money line, hosting Boise State.
Yeah.
If Boise State's going to slip up, it's probably going to be this game right here.
That's going to be a fire game, low-key, honestly.
San Jose State 6-3 on the season. They have the best receiver in the country, Nick Nash. He's probably going to break all the records this year. If Boise State doesn't come prepared to play, guys, this could be one of those games late into the fourth quarter where it's going back and forth. Just be prepared to see some fuckery at San Jose.
So I've bet on San Jose State this year, and I totally back Jose. San Jose State has a really, really good team.
Yeah. All right, that's going to be it for this episode. We're going to be back next week with the live episodes. Computer absolutely took a shit on itself. Hard drives went down, so we are down on that front as far as streaming it live to YouTube. But we'll be back next week on YouTube, streaming live for you guys there. Once again, go follow us on all our socials on Action Network, and Twitter and everything. John's posting college basketball bets every day. So if you want to get in on that action, go give him a follow on Action. Go look for us on the Reddit College Football Sportsbook thread, because we're posting in there every weekend. So if you want to see what bets we take there, we're 20-9 on our posts on Reddit. So you want to go see that, go give us a look on Reddit either Friday night or early Saturday morning, because that's when they'll be posted. So everything's out there for you guys. We hope you appreciate it, and we hope you enjoy what you're listening to. Good luck to everybody this weekend. Let's go make some money. Give my boy Jose a happy early birthday. And we're going Kansas. Let's go Kansas. We're gonna make some money from our boy Jose.
Jayhawks, baby, let's go.
All right, we'll be back next week live on YouTube, youtube.com/theBoulevardPod, and we will be having the chat rocking and rolling then. So we'll be back next week.
Have a camera,
and we'll talk about having a camera. All right, boys, we appreciate it. Hell yeah.
That's good. That was really good.
To be fair, I think this actually was on YouTube Talk because a few of my friends texted me saying they were listening.
That what?
A couple of my friends texted me saying they were watching the video, watching the live stream.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was on the entire time?
Yeah, it was on. Because I didn't send it out. I didn't send a link, but people did text me right now saying, "Oh, I'm listening to it."
Oh shit.